Could it not be said that an independent self uses the aggregates like a rider uses a horse? And like a rider gets a new horse when the old one dies, an independent self appropriates a new set of aggregates when the old ones pass from being. Pechashana? 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 Tapa dang ta Yoruba. Tapa. Tapa dang ta. Mare. Ta. Simchin ta Yoruba. Ta. Ta dang tapa. Ta shunkin Yoruba. Tapa. Dini tapa ta shisona. Dini ta shinda jilingirwa. Ta. Horse. Simchin ta.
잠발 줄았다.
Tashinba. Talashuna. Michik talashuna.
vegetarian 하니.
아니 다디 시소나.
아니 시소나. 아니.
Dini ta sabajinyo ragirwa. Ani di ta sabashune dogire.
그래.
아니 디당.
왜 문제야? 다 미지 달래셔네 다디 시소나 데 가르쳤어.
Dini ta sab.
다 사바지고 그래서.
그래서 이 딘낭신 랑왕 두 유베 딱 랑왕 두 유베 딱 디 풍보닝바 시소나 데니 풍보 사바 랭게와
풍보 랭게와
세찬디 다른 타바 가거와 다 신켄당 다
신바지 시다나 다 신바 좀 그래서
그래 세찬디 랑왕 위 딱 랑왕와
다 랑왕와디
디 제직레 풍보랭게레 제 제마 풍보 사바 랭게와 니 다 니어와
다 랑왕 되게 풍보 랭요 말이 다 랑왕와들 풍보 랭요 말 다 랑왕 요 말이와 좋아 다 세디 개바도 세디 다 되기 아니 저와 치마 아니 다른 거 말이 좋아 저와 치마 내가 라인바 세디 개바도 제빈 다한테 저와 치마 누구 말이 야 세디 개바도 저 세디 개바도 저 잔데 저와 치마 요 말이 장가 저와 치마 누구 좋아 됐어 말이 세디 개바도 지 가나 세디 개바도 저와 인자 장 저와 치마 누구를 왜 쓰나 좋았어 그래 그 조선만 대두 용어세 그 코랑 그 응아지 와라 응아지 선바지 저왕아지 탑제라 저왕아지 탐제라 캬바도 차위 장기 아티기 저와 치만란 로와 이당 장기 체디 아니 거와 캬바라 때네 배우대와 용어지 추스 주고 말이 추스고 말이 장 체디 장데 이겨와 치만은 매나야
So it's like we were saying before, the self that exists in this life, or the self specified as pertaining to the current life, you can say does not go into the next life. But you still have to say that the I or the self goes into the next life. That is that the I or the self that is specific to this life doesn't go into the next life, but the I or the self in general goes into the next life. So, for example, the John in this life that is creating some kind of virtue will not. The specific, the I of that John in this specific sense of this life does not go into the next life, but a sort of a general I, which encompasses both this life and the next life. You can say, in that sense, there's a I which goes from one life to the next.
Yeah, that's right. And the City Pumbo City Gala, Nadi, Shitugamana, Nakiwachimotoache, Cettinga, City Pumbo City Zamba, Cettinga, Kiwachimana Doache. In the Dada Pumbo, Chigina, Pumbo City Zabangati and Matro. So, Cettinga, Kansakin, Asina, Kiwachimat, Kiwangaji Tamja Tabjet. City Kansakin.
So here we have to distinguish between the I, which pertains to the person in the yeah, the I of the person in this life, we can say goes into the next life, but it's not the case that that the person in this life goes into the next life. Is that right? Yeah. Would you say that? Because the aggregates, which are the base for the existence of the person in the present life, when they disintegrate, one would say that the person disintegrates, but the I of that person has a continuation or exists in the subsequent life as well.
City midi Kiwachima Yamari. City midi Kiwachima Yamari. Midi.
No.
Midi Ngadi Kiwachima Yari.
So we say that the human that exists in this life doesn't go into the next life, but the I of the human that exists, that lives in this life, we would say goes into the subsequent life. Wrong way doc. So an autonomous self, the notion of an autonomous I or self, could not go into the next life or even exist in this life, because even conventionally, it doesn't exist in any way whatsoever. So the autonomous self is really the thing which is to be negated here. It's non-existent, and it's also a thing to be negated. Yes. When a phenomenon is merely imputed, or I'm calling it designated, on a basis, it is not being created, meaning here the basis is not being created. Then how does the existence of the phenomenon here, well, I'm sorry, the question here, I'm trying to straighten it out, phrase it probably. How does the existence of the phenomenon, referring to the basis of the designation, actually come about? Nga sa wadi pungpo la dakpares, pungpe tsok la dakpares. Nga sa wadi mingtsam res, mingtsam re, ming dakpares. Di pungpo mingtsam mares.
Pungpo ya mingtsam re, nga ya mingtsam re. Kanka mingtsam re.
So I said that the I, which is designated on the basis of the aggregates, is a mere name, is merely designated on the base of the aggregates. And I said, but, to rephrase this question, that the aggregates themselves are not mere names, And Rinpoche said, no, that's not right, that the aggregates also, the basis of the designation, are also mere names.
그래서
Mingtamres.
민담에 또배 따섬지면도 매래. 지난 그 치당 나그 뭐뭐 간대진 이나야 예매 강가 또배 따섬지면 왜 말타 루딜라.
So in this system, whatever exists, whether it's an external phenomenon or internal phenomenon, any kind of thing, only exists as it's designated by thought. Di konsusambala mingtsamina dining mubo mares. Mungobo mare duce kaza chawache tugi mares.
내 요즘 뭐도 말해. 제가 민담되기 아니 자와춘이 그 말이. 자, 상에 대세단도 잡고라. 민담 인자하지. 민담디 자와춘 두고 말이라.
So I said that the idea here seems to be that if something is a mere name, that it's not able to perform any kind of function, it's not able to engage in any kind of activity. And Rinpoche said, no, that's not correct, that things that are mere names are, in fact, do perform functions, engage in activities.
민담이 이미야 인상 민담 되게 자와춘이서 줘야 돼. 다 깔아가고 요와 인상. 남비 줍다 탄주와 마도 demti mencha 감각이 민담들라 자와춘이서 좀 두어리다.
So this is one of the difficult points here in Buddhist philosophy, that the idea that one can establish that things that are mere names being able to function. None of the other schools of philosophy, other than the Prasangika, the consequentialist school of Madhyamika, is able to establish the functioning of things as mere names. The other schools can't say that that's impossible.
Yeah, and
This will come up later. I'm going to explain this later on, so we'll go on from there. Please ask Rinpoche if he could clarify, quote, not contradicted by rational investigation of how ultimate nature exists, by giving us an example related to self. Okay. Dundam chuchigi rikpe, dundam chuchigi rikpa, rikpe nepa tangma nepa rava. Di taksa di dundam chuchigi rikpa. So it's better here, valid cognition, which investigates the ultimate, is maybe a better translation for this. Dundam chuchigi semi nepa tangma nepa. Di tak.
전담 주식이 따서는 되면 돈이 떼나 비비릭 받다라 전담 주식이 따스 거래. 돈이 떼나 비비릭 받다.
Maar die dak, so nga je dak. Nga. Dak. Bau daga dak.
다 가르세. 다가 전담 주식 채널 먼저 봤어. 다한테 탄예비 저 민점라 나샤야 되라.
So I said before that the I or the self, which is merely conventionally existent, that is not negated by valid cognition, which has investigated the nature of the ultimate. There's no, it's not affected or contradicted by that kind of investigation.
그래서 한번 봐. 오야. 다 된데 두시 자고 가리. 저 민기 탄이 딱 받자면 나샤고와 인자. 나베 춥다. 란주바 맨제 되기 나쇼도 가라. 파 짜니. 다시 딩도 짜니. 안 다시 딩도 나지 냐는 나샤 두고 가리. 다시 딩도 나지 마냐나 따받자면 나샤 쇼고 말해. 저 먼저 봐 인자. 아니 가시기 귀신 남신 아이 천실샤에 가시 천 이진 남신 강사 천실샤에 가시 풍봉아 소바 강사 천실샤 독수 연구하래.
So the other systems of Buddhist philosophy, as said, are not able to establish the I as simply a mere designation. they say that to say that something is a mere designation would preclude it being found within the basis of designation. So they say that if in order for something to be established as existing, you have to be able to identify it, locate it, and in the case of the I or the self, one would have to be able to find some sort of find it or within the basis of designation. So they say that when you search through the basis of designation, in this case the aggregates, one would have to find some sort of something that illustrates the I, that serves as a basis for that identity, for the identification of the I. And in the case of the Yogacara school, then they say that the basal consciousness is sort of the base for the identity of the I, and whereas the other schools tend to say that the mental consciousness, and there are other variations, but the mental consciousness is the basis for identifying the I.
ngā sīngā tī mīngi tāpa tsamlā ngā shāku yu na tā chibā tī lé yung guwa rī tāshī phūmbō khorāng kī ngā ngā tsāni mē na phūmbō ngā jī mīk mē na tā ngā sīngā jī tōkbā tāk tsam tu shāku tu wā sī tōkbā tāk tsamlā ngā shā sō na anī tōkbā tākbā tsam yī ngā shā tu gu yu na tā ngā rāng sō kānsā kī tā tāng rōng kī rā tāng wā tā tīnzō yāng tōkbā tāk tsam rā wā So then
the other schools then would say to the Prasangika that say that the I is merely designated, is simply conceptually identified or designated on the basis of the aggregates. They would say if that's the case, if it's merely a mere designation, then what's the difference between that I, which is simply a designation, and the horns of a rabbit or the self of a person, which are also merely designated by thought? There'd be no difference insofar as they're both all designations.
ngā sē tāshī ngā nā chūwa tē kākpa kātū zāmbā ngā sē kī mīng tsam shī liwa mīng tsam shī rwa mīng tsam tī liwa yin zāng mīng tī jēsū chūngwa kī tōpa lā ngā tsam nāwi nāngchā tē kī rwa hā kō sō tōpi nāngchā tē nāng tsam tē kī pēnyē tāng chāchē sō chī chāwā chē pā rā 팬이 자체 주지 자와 제바데 녀무도 봐 여봐 녀무도 봐 여봐 오늘 여봐 녀무도
녀무도 봐
녀무도에서 가르쳐래 오늘 전에 오늘 전에 도저히 녀무도 봐 나지 제수 중에 또배 나자잖아 팬이 자체 소지 자와 전혀 봐 아니
So the other schools, when Prasangika does this analysis, they say that within the basis of designation, there's no, the I is not found, so therefore it exists merely as a designation upon this basis of designation, the aggregates, but it doesn't exist within them, and therefore it's merely established and designated by thought. So the other schools then say that that's not the case, but
ngādi dāshī ngā chūwa de kātū zāmbā tā ngā kātū sāna ngā sā ka mīng zām shīla māyā rwa mīng tī kī jēsū chūngi ane tōpi nāngchā zamlā ane pāñi chāchī sōchī nāngshā nyamay tu chō tuyé
So the way this works then is that when you examine the basis of designation here, and you find that the I it does not exist within that basis of designation, then when one comes to the question, and then how does this I exist? What is this I? And then one, by examining it, comes to find that the I as a mere name exists, or the name I gives rise to a thought of I, and the ability of that that simple appearance of I to thought is able to perform a function. It's able to experience harm and benefit. It's able to engage in activities, and that is undeniable.
因此，提接受处理，民的接受处理，多被人家咱的，安尼哦，看啥的，人家咱的吃法台上的吃吧啦，吃法的吃吧的，安尼谈也比几点谈也比参嘛个是，几点把啦差吧当，他安尼谈教育参没吧，那吧没吧，那对了是个，那怎么听
？So that
几点把啦差吧当，几点比参没主吧当，谈教育参嘛，明年把印章。
So this, based on the name I, one has the thought of I. So the name sort of gives rise to the thought I. And when the appearance of that I to thought is indisputable, that it does appear that way. And the fact of that I being able to function, to perform various kinds of activities, to experience, to have some kind of benefit arise for it, to experience problems, that is indisputable, undeniable. And the way we can establish that is that this is commonly known within the world, that the I functions that way. And it being commonly known in the world is one criterion. Then the second is that that it's not contradicted by any kind of reasoning or logic which pertains to the way the world functions. And then the third criterion is that it's also not contradicted by some kind of valid cognition, which is investigating the nature of the ultimate nature of things.
我听这一章，看啥个搭档，是我给搭档，没那么的让我参与把人把当。俺那开始你就你越干说，这让我看清楚，让我太大，差距出去那边。 忘记让我吃吧印章，俺那俺们当没着吧？他大概让我的，让我参与吧项目去吧，让我参与项目去吧，没让给让我参与吧项目去吧，差距出去那边协会人家印章对着我的。
So the appearance of the I then to thought is different from the appearance of like mountains and fences in a dream. Or illusions that are conjured up by a magician, or the horns of a rabbit, which are totally non-existent. Someone perceiving the horns of a rabbit. In all of those cases, it can be established that the person having that kind of thing, that appearance, appearing to them, is affected by some kind of temporary source of error, something that is affecting them such that they're perceiving things erroneously. So in that kind of appearance, we can establish that through the fact that people having those appearances are mistaken, because, and we can establish that the things which are appearing to them are not actual real fences and mountains and horses and elephants and such, and that there is no such thing as horns of a rabbit. Did you get that? This is hard. This is a little bit difficult.
가소래 가르송아래에서는 냠샤기 수원 하마메바 크장 세가라 다스 마라시메바리 또베 또니라 냠바샤비 내가라 냠샤기 수고나 아니 다 가자 마라시 추와 코양 키 아니 마 코양 요마래 냠샤 수원 마야메 하마메바 크장 냠샤 텔라 람비 제도도 장도 잠바 아니 가르 류도 세리가라 마참 민tam식 류와 하고서 류와 하고서 류와 민tam 민태양 민tam 아세 민재양 민대야 가지라 식식그래서나 또배 심에도 다위 또다 민tam 또배 심에도 자위가 또박 시자네 매바 딱삭 시자네 매바 또다 민tam도 또배 심에도 집에 또다 민tam도 세바달라 내가 상게 제와 송와래
The fact that the difficulty of understanding this is illustrated by, there's a statement by Kedub Rinpoche, who said, that even like if you have achieved meditative equipoise on emptiness, and within the context of that, no sort of inherently existing I or anything inherently existing appears within that. The I doesn't appear to be inherently existent at all within that kind of context, within the perspective of that kind of meditative equipoise. But as soon as one arises out of that, then just sort of spontaneously, automatically, the I, which is a mere name, again becomes a sort of source of deception. One is deceived with respect to the status of that I, which is a mere name.
낭잠지 털라 잡아야냐 마슈바 예 잡아자냐 마슈바 예 잡아야냐 마슈바 아니 레 소바바다 대우 녀와바다 사동라 소위 잡아 친이수 녀야 줍지 잠바 아니 동바다 땡중 손도 주바 세대다 투슨 거야 말에 동바다 땡중 손도 주바 동바다 땡중 손도 주바
당포 그래
아무 데인바 강세 낭잠지 틀라 잡아야 마슈바체
낭참라
다지인바 여기 된다 가서래 사마 류와 가래도 우선은 민잠시 류와 그러와 민대양다 랑시지 주바까니 다 민잠시 류와인다 민대야 가래지래에서 또배 심에도 다베 또다 민잠다 시자네 뭐 다베 또다 민잠정도 세바데 내가 상도 제바나 더니 뒤편에 제바자네 마슈와체 그러와 냠샤가 말에 냠샤라 랑바인바
몰랐어
내가 냠샤라 알아 냠샤라 제도도 랑되잖아 냠샤가 내가라 아니 마야요 말이 나랑 신지 줘야요 말이 냠샤가 몰라 다 냠샤라 야 랑데 제도도 아니 류바데 가르려고 세레 가라 가자랑시 주와 까바레데 마시에게 민잠시 류바레스 와 펜드라이 민데 간데지레에서나 또베 와 또베 심에도 따베 똑다 민양 잠도 세방에와 상기 제와 또베 심에도 따베 심에서는 또베 따삭 시춘이 매봐
몰랐어 야 심에
시자네 매봐 또베 심에도 때문에 내가 상기 제와나 제와 되잖아 되네와 되네 제바춘 마차와체 야 제바춘 마차봐 제바 마차봐 레소바바단 더우녀바단 아니 냐야 참에 주제자마 땡준다 동바 손도 주비줄래 땡 동바다 땡주 손도 주바데 도구 말해.
So I think I want to start over the translation of that a little bit and restate it. Here, Khedrub Rinpoche is saying that when one is in meditative equipoise or absorption on emptiness, the I doesn't, the inherently existing I doesn't appear, and even the mere I alone does not appear, neither inherently existing nor in any way whatsoever. And then when one comes out of that meditative equipoise, the mere I appears to one, and in that sort of, when it appears in that way, without any kind of basis, without the basis of designation appearing, one should remain sort of focused on that mere I, and understand that that mere I is able to engage in, to perform functions, to act as the agent that accumulates karma, and to perform all those kinds of functions. So remaining focused on that mere I in that way, not focusing on the basis that the I is designated upon, but the mere I itself, then that kind of understanding is explained as being the integration of dependent origination and emptiness. Denjungdang Tony
동바다 던지 손도 주비 출라 녀와녀도 캐셔바 좀지 제수 장마다 믿음 번예 송아지가 다시 좀 보고 있어요. 동바다 denjung 손도 주바는 녀와녀 두신 말이.
So that's gaining some kind of ascertainment of the way in which dependent origination and emptiness are integrated together.
인상 다 나셔야 돼. 낭 잠라셔야. 다중 기보 가서래. 개박계산 그 수나신 이체지. 최근 면단 타냐 나서 가서 최근 면단 타냐. 최근 면단 타냐지 나와 잠래. tenji dulu na kaya me sen nang tamdela nga shoba ma do tenji dulu na zane me ba wa inza nga singa de ta loi nang wa zama sha ya du kin ba de.
So one can explain this in terms of like the being a mere appearance, and as said previously, there's the verse by the victorious Khesan Gyatso, the Dalai Lama, and it's said that la kona di 직제티 양켜
최근 면당 로이 타냐지 나와 잠에 tenji 시대제 다시 원에 주바가야 메스.
So it's saying that all phenomena are understood to be mere conventions or mere names, and apart from that, they're not established objectively at all. There's no way in which they're established objectively.
인자 대다 인장 말이 두보이 리비 소소기위 아니 소중어를 근데 레 나와 잠마도 요 말이 내나야 말이 바기 레비 아니 알아서 소소기오기 아니 소중어를 좋아 소주스나 미기남 실라스 미기남 바셔와세 남바시 소주 알아와 소주라 강나와 대다 유도 주바 나와데 아니 나라 소소소소 롱안딜라 때나 하고 그래서 거래
강릉을
소주 알아 소주라 아니 가르난 거래 하나 강남 탐제 코랑 그 늘리지원에 주와시 나와데 아니 소소소기 아니 로라 때나 하고 그래서
로라 때나 하고 그래
소소소 로이 나주 찾나 나주를 때나 하고 그래서
무스
아이요네야.
So even though that's the case, things merely appear. then nevertheless, they're mere appearances, yet they have this sort of appearance to ordinary people who are affected by the obscuring factor of ignorance, such that they're perceived as being objectively established, not as mere appearances. They appear in that way, and one can we can know that simply through the six media of awareness that we have, the eye and so forth, the mental awareness that things are appearing to us.
Now this sorry, so
this is since this verse is quite clear, it's very beneficial to think about that, how that works.
아니 델로용어 하마멤버 고바신도 제세 손도와 오다 토마 추로라 나위 나서 토마 메바네 델루네 추비 델루네 추바 나스 나 델루네 추바 나와데 다 가자 참모레 또 많이 가자 참모레 어테 하마멤버 고바데 아니 신도 제세 손도와
So because this I which is appearing to us from beginninglessly, and it appears to have this sort of objectively established nature that appears to us from without any kind of beginning because of the error that exists within our cognition. And because erroneous cognition perceives the I as existing in some sort of objectively established way, we should understand that is really the subtle form of the object to be negated, and should apply every kind of effort to eliminate that completely from us.
그래서
Gotcha, Dramo.
가자 참모데 가라서 가서 내내 주의 들루디 가서 들란 주의 들은 가서야데 라신지 주바 도만에 주바스가 라가데 라손에 주비 라신지 주바 나위 들루데 다 가야데 디레.
So seeing the I appearing as if it was objectively established, as if it was established from its own side, essentially established. That is the subtle form of the object of negation here, which is to be eliminated.
민기타냐지 왕게 마샤비여바 랑원에 주바 라완도 주바 라신지 주바 덴바 주바 다 찍바시바래.
So something not existing merely by mingi tanyeki wangi mashakba. Mingi tanyeki wangi
mashaba.
Not something existing, which is, but in a way which is not merely established by the force of linguistic conventions or the convention of names. Something existing from its own side. Ranguni trupa, rangitsiniki matrupa,
rangitsiniki trupa, rawadu trupa, ranshinji trupa, damba trupa kanga chikpanda.
And something existing by its own essence, something existing autonomously, something existing autonomously or by its own essence, not being established, merely established by the force of names and conventions. Those are synonymous. They have the same range.
인자다 가지시와 나신 지달현재진 아침비 유 라신지메바 또비 따와녀바 이노 세가라 오당 아데 라신지메바 라완도야나 다 민기 타냐지 왕그 샤바 요거리 민기 타냐지 왕그 마샤바 요바 메자 민기 타냐지 왕그 샤삼레 타냐지 왕그 샤삼 가 간데지 요와레서 다 조단 텐데 샤고 다진데나 좋아
Tanya Kwang Shapa.
민기 타냐지 왕그 마샤바 요바데 태임바 가차임바 민기 타냐지 왕그 샤삼 좋아
So the I then, at the end of the last line of the text there says that the object which is held by the, which is grasped at as the I by the innate view of the perishable collections, when one understands that, when one acquires the view which realizes that that is without any essence or is devoid of essence, then one has acquired that correct view. The opposite of this is the object which is held by that kind of wrong view is held to be existing, not established merely by the force of names and conventions, linguistic conventions. So if we say, if we talk about something being established from its own side, what that refers to is something being findable when it's sought within its basis of designation. And if you seek an object, something out, seek for something within its object of designation, and you find it, then that thing would not be existing merely by the force of linguistic conventions, but by the force of names and conventions.
폼비 입강가 미니 다 마녀와 티잖아 다 메와레베스나 메와 말이 따위라신 자위지 많이 받이 크바민 시도와 따위라신 자니 다시 폼비 띵도 많이 받 맞으니까 다 크바레베스나 크바 말이 따위라신 자위지 따위라신 세네가 나이 띵도 나라신 메바탄라 바바 따와라와 따와 우미따와라와 좋아 따위 라신 자위 칠 많이 받이 크바민세가라 다시 풍비 띵도 안에 나 자위 세나 나 많이 받이 다 크바레베스나 크바 말레스 나 크나 아니 쳇달 동아래 좋아 나 크나 쳇달 동아래 다시 풍비 띵도 나 자디 많이 받이나 다 민도 삼선아 아니 따와 쳇달 동아래 좋아 인자 따위 라신 자위디 많이 받이 크바민 나 크바 말레스 오나 가르레에서나 많이 받이 많이 가자고 많이 키면베스 가서 따위 라신 자위디 많이 받이 많이 받기 가서 가장 아들 갖고 와 말했어 가장 아들 갖고 와 말해 나 라신 주가 갖고 와 말해 나 갖고 와 말아 다 오나 많이 받이 가를 리고 마비나 가를 해서나 민마시와 그 민잠시 리고 와레스 민잠시
So then when one is looking for how the I exists, and when one examines and one is trying to find if the I exists established in its own right from its own side, one seeks within the object of, seeks within the basis of designation for the I. And one tries to find the I within the basis of designation. Here, the basis of designation is the five aggregates. So one searches each of the five aggregates individually and does not find the I within them. One looks at the collection of the aggregates, seeking out the I, and doesn't find it. One thinks about the configuration of the aggregates and does not find the I within that. And then when one has done this exhaustive search and does not find the I within the basis of designation, one might think, the I doesn't exist at all, but that's not the case. That sort of analysis and investigation, which searches for the I within the aggregates but does not find it, does not negate the I. It does not negate the I. Rather, it establishes the I as a mere name. And this the I existing as a mere name, which is not findable within the basis of its designation, is itself the nature of the view here is Dawi Rangshin Nyepa. Dawi Rangshin.
Dawi Rangshin
Zawi Chir.
Dawa Dombaji Dan Buta, Dan La Puticana, Tak Dash, Madi Dashi Dindu, Yeme Zawi Zawa Titan Asirwa.
So that's the.
No. So
here it's like when you're examining the basis of designation and you don't find the I within it, that non-finding of it does not negate the existence of the I. Rather, the I continues to exist. And that is that sort of investigation is itself the nature of the view that one is seeking, the understanding of emptiness here.
No, that's right. 자신들이 집어들 됐잖아요. 다 민담지 강사 품비 다시 품비도 봐 짜지가나 다 품보래래 초바 이 관계 때문에 양 강사시 아니 자주 잡아 많이 받티잖아. 다오나 강사 매바래서나 강사가 뭐 강사 크바래서나 크바 말이 크나 아니 채달롱아래. 와 채달롱아래.
So just as we said, when you same thing with the person. If you examine the aggregates that make up the person, the basis for the designation of the person, and you find that the person is not identical with the individual aggregates. It's not identical with the collection of the aggregates. It's not the same, the identical with the configuration of the aggregates. That not finding the person within the basis of its designation, you would say, does that negate the existence of the person? And the answer is no. If it did negate the existence of the person, then one would have fallen into a nihilistic sort of view.
많이 가자 고민 배서는 많이 받을 가자 말이스 대고바 말이스 가르에서나 많이 받을때 아니 가르에서나 나한테 막이 민점식 류바레스 민점식 폼비된도 가자랑신지 주바 다른 자유선은 예바데 키디를 가데 잠바 상마 가를 류바레서나 나시하게 민점식 류바레 사중이나 시체니 민점 대양 전조제 가서 민점 대양 제 민점 되게 제수 안에 반자 봉화당 안에 랑자 냠슬레기 랑도기 네 전조제 랑도네 랑도기 네 타바지 용거레스 하고서 민디 제수 주매
딱시 딱든 소체나 민예
다들 자위 체나 나 다들 자위 체나 많이 버티지 잠바다가 제이가라 아니 나 크바를 왜서나 나도 크바 말했어 타냐병 나도 쓰고라 타냐병 나도 크바 말했어.
So when one's examining, looking for the I within its basis of designation, the aggregates, and you seek that I, an inherently existing I or intrinsically existing I within the aggregates, and it's not found, the non-existence of that does not establish the non-existence of the I. Rather, there's something remaining left over, which is the conventionally existing I, the I, which is a mere name, and which is established as a mere name. So that remainder of the I, the mere name I, is not the object of negation here. And it's not negated through the investigation of the relationship between the designation and the basis of designation, the aggregates, the I and the aggregates.
Oh yeah, thế ra đó mình怎么去留意事情，mình怎么这样开始的，讲出捐浪多呢是mình怎么这个结束，安尼捐生活的原点开始的原点主把切把当，帮着帮我当。 안에 가서래 랑자 냠수 렘바라 소와기 아니 예수 저와데 태그레스.
So we say then what is it that's remaining after one's done that investigation and has not found any inherently existing I within the basis of designation, the aggregates? One is left with the mere name, the I as a mere name. And that mere name is suitable to function as something that is connected with the performance of positive kinds of actions, the creation of merit, is able to engage in the negative kinds of actions. It can perform the practices that are to be taken up on the path and do the things, avoid doing the things which are not supposed to be done, and can serve as a suitable basis for actions and their results.
민 나승가데 민 잠지체 민 잠대기 아니 타냐 차체 수지 남차 체도 받다 두자 거래
타니 주지
민 잠대기 타냐도 차체 수지 남차 체도와 반자 뽕하다.
So that name, which the I is a mere name, is able to engage in all kinds of the conventional activities, functions, and engage in actions and such.
Oh yeah, that 되게 나랑신 주와 가가 그바지 체. 다니와 나경 라신지 주와 그바세더라. 나경 원지 주와 그바다 바네 되나? 지다 랭게지 디닝 아오 냥도 짐비 미바 마이와랑 그 천이 주마주 잡아나. 지다 랭게지 딩아요 니마데라 만진지 지다 랭게 시거래. 나 토마 메바나 앙암 슈슈기에더라. 아니 어원년도 미바 당 아이와랑 그 천이 주마주 잡아나서 아이와서나 지당 아이 롱 제제더라 아이와스 거래. 저 아이와 사당 아이 아니 아이와 아이 아이 나와 미소서나 아이 sensi를 봐 주고 그래. 지당 아이와서나 아니 아이와랑도 체. 그러봐 아이 미소랑 그 천이 주었지나 水当真切，我有我让个成绩主要是呢，看上当真几大切，是什么
？So
这不拿钱，
So then this leads into the second topic in this portion of the text where it says, by means of that, the reasonings which have been given above, one is showing that those reasonings are also able to negate that which is of the self, the selfs, or that which is of the self, as being established by means of its essence. It says there that then from that, which has been explained above, the innate grasping, the innate view of the perishable aggregates, which holds the thought mine, which thinks mine. The object of that grasping at mine, which is the mine, or which is of that which is of the I or the mine, If you investigate whether or not that's established by means of its own intrinsic identity, then what follows is explained in the verse. Here, the mine, or that which is of the self. Mine or of the self refers to, is the specific concept or object of the concept, mine or the self, of the self. Things like my nose, my body, all of those things are illustrations or sort of bases for identifying that which is mine. But here it's referring to this specific concept of mine or I, the object of that concept.
Oh yeah, that is my warang change madu res. My change change to madu jabana, my wa said that rando de chegala, Dani yaba mayin and died any carasor, Tagu yaba calaso, Sirkala, da ranshinji truba yaba mayina, and then the dagi long jaja, my wa ranshinji truba cala, yes, yaba cala juris.
So the verse here says, if the self does not exist, then how can that which is of the self exist? The verse says that. So here, and that which is of the self, or the selves, possessed of the self, possessed by the self, is referring here to that specific the concept, the object of that concept, mine or of myself, not to the things which are the actual things that are possessed by the self.
인상 마요와 집이 지다 되기 아니 마이 천시 미소 되다 나 마믹송아래 와 마믹스 미소 되다 믹실 손에 니니 다기고 미소 되다니 다기고 냠도 아니 나랑 그래서 나랑 신지 주와 증가되라 마요와 집이 지다 마요와 집이 지다 되기 마당 마요와 니가랑 그 천이 주와 진 마유의 천신 mikso미라는 거 차이 주와 미진. 봐. mikso mik실 손에 니니 다기 오 냠도 아니 나랑 그 차이 주와 진 봐.
다기랑
mikso되다 mik실 손에 니 다기 오 냠도 아니 나랑 그 차이 주와 진 봐.
So here, this kind of a wrong view of the perishable aggregates, which is specifically the innate sort of grasping at mine. Here, the direct the object of this is the mine itself, the concept mine, or of myself. The way this operates is that it first will observe objects like the eyes, the body, or some portion of oneself, and then then the thought, "This is mine," arises. So here it's referring to that specific sense of mine, or the sort of the object of the thought mine, rather than to the things which are possessed by oneself, or one's possessions, or which are things which are used by oneself.
그래서 오이자 나랑 아이와 집에 지다 니가 강사가 단체체. 그와 강사가 단체.
So then it's said then that one way of explaining this is that both the innate grasping at the perishable aggregates, which is holding the eye erroneously, and the innate grasping at the perishable aggregates, which is holding to the mind, are instances of grasping at the self. Grasping at the self. I'm sorry, grasping at the self of persons. Thank you.
랑공 원이지에 봐면 랑 다그왕 원지에 봐 칼라주 남네 다그와 라심에 봐 따봐 주로 세가라 다말 라심에 봐 땡라 팝 ngā rāngshī mē bā tēn lā pā bī kā lā ngā rāngshī mē bā tō bī tō bā ngā rāngshī mē bā tō bī lō tēnī kī āni ngā yu wā rāngshī mē bā mā tō jāng rāngshī mē bā mī sīng jāng lō tē kī chē bā lā tēn ngā rāngshī mē bā tō yī lō tī chē bā lā tēn āni ngā yu wā rāngshī mē bā tō bā chū kī rē
So it then says that once one has understood that the I, so-called I, is devoid of essence, is without any essence, then that very cognition is able to, although it doesn't apprehend the mind as being devoid of essence, as being essenceless,
ngā xie wā rāngshī mē bā tō bē lō tēnī kī ngā yu wā rāngshī mē bā dzīng kī mā rē mē sīn nā yāng āni ngā rāngshī mē bā tō bē ngā mā kī lō tē kī chē pā lā tēn nē āni ngā yu wā lā lō gā chō wā tsam jī ngā rī jī rī bā tē kī tō bī jī ngā yu wā rāngshī mē bā lō tō tū gu rē tō gu rē
So even though it doesn't
yu jī xiān dā mā tē bā 두지 샤바지 거면 거 봐. 나랑 심해 봐 때나 배야기 두지 대라 때네 대템바 잠지 아니 가요라 심바 또 두그레스.
So it says here that although the cognition which understands that the I is devoid of essence, is essenceless, that doesn't hold the mind as being essenceless. It doesn't apprehend the mind as being essenceless. But by means of the mode of investigation, which determines whether or not, if one turns one's attention to the way in which whether or not the I exists by means of its own essence, if one shifts one's focus so that one investigates whether or not the mind exists by means of its own essence or possesses essence, then by means of the earlier cognition, and depending on the earlier type of reasoning which establishes that the I is devoid of essence, one doesn't have to rely upon some different kind of reasoning or proof for on the non-existence of the essence of the mind. One can understand that without relying upon some other form of proof.
두벌 셔지 리방아메 아니 리방아마 나라신지 메바 땡라 베비 리바 텔라 땡네 아니 가서라 나이 와라시 메바 아니 가서라 두벌 주지 두벌 셔지 리바 로바 마순소세 이나 나이 와라시 메바 땡라 바바 그 리바 로가 마순 마레 나라시 메바 땡라 메비 리바 텔라 땡네 나이 와라시 메바 땡라 베 니밤 So because
the cognition that understands that the I is devoid of essence once one has done that and established that the I is essenceless, then without having to employ some other different kind of reasoning and engage in some other kind of investigation that as to whether or not the mind has an essence or not, simply by the activity of the earlier kind of cognition, by relying upon the investigation that sort of cognition performed to establish the essencelessness of the I. And you don't have to rely upon some other kind of reasoning. One can understand it, the absence of essence with regard to the mind. And because that's the case, in the text here, it has explained how the former kind of reasoning which establishes the essencelessness of the I, it's given that proof, but it doesn't teach some other kind of reasoning for the establishing the essencelessness of the mind.
Oh yeah, 다 대단 나당 아이와니 라시메바 땡라 파바나. 코위 자완 직디 진당 용수 좋아. 다 나당 라시메바 땡라 바이바네. 아노 코위 자완 직단이 그 진단데 나당 아이와 라신지 추바 용수 좋아 대당 가와기 라시메비 돈이 크도 추바를 교회. 돈이 또바 주그래. 다들 대단라 맞어서 송하래.
So, and it continues that, therefore, thus, when one is established that the I and the mind, both of those are devoid of essence, then since this contradicts in the entire way in which the basis of samsara, the root of samsara, the wrong view of the perishing aggregates, the way it apprehends the I and the mind, it's completely contrary to that, and thus, when we'll understand that by seeing how that contradicts the way in which the wrong view of the perishable aggregates apprehends its objects, one will come to understand emptiness, and because that's the case, it only gives this much explanation of the reasonings for negating the essence of self, of I or mine.
다들 담보 여전도 베른바다라 지다 본주 될라 잡아 방와 아니 렘바세베 개와세주로 사숨체.
So then this leads into the second subdivision of the text, which is the stages for eliminating all of the faults and errors in meditating on this. This has two subdivisions as well the stages of eliminating the faults and the errors, which is in turn subdivided into three topics. The way in which one eliminates the wrong view of the perishable aggregates, arguments about that, and the way in which one eliminates or stops birth through eliminating grasping.
Oh yeah, that tambo jigda dojo karere sana 대단 nga당 nga이와 랑금 찬이지 마주바 땡라 파비 따와녀바 디니 스타카 공원도 얘게 nga라시 메바디 아니 가소래 내시 가장의 위네 차왕의 위네 아니 덤비 직자 중의 위네 투장의 위네 다 준장 같이 쇼디라 안에 다 지투라게 따라 땡땡네 안에 nga당 nga이바 라시 메바 땡라 팝 봐. 어때라 팝니 아니 nga다라시 메바 따와 땡라 팝바 그 따와 녀니 안에 따와 담부통만니 되네 따와 곰발라 되네 따와 텔라 메바 똥바니라 메비시네 텔라메네 똥바니라 메비시라 손제 시라 손제 양양 곰발라 되네 아니 똥바니 무슨도 또 로투사르 바시 쪄고아래.
So the way in which one eliminates the wrong view of the perishable aggregates, the text here says that thus once someone who has obtained the view which establishes that the I and the mine are not established by their own nature, that they don't exist by means of their own nature. This establishment of the view here refers to the entire process that was described above, which is identifying the object of negation, determining the pervasion of the object of negation, the extent of the object of negation, and the gacha ngujin. 가장의진
가장의 위네 차왕의 위네 아니 dembi 주장의 위네 dembi 직장의 위네
No, so the four
굉장히 어디 지수라고 땡지들이.
the four sort of points that were mentioned above, the essential point of ascertaining the object of negation, the essential point of understanding the extent of the object of negation, understanding the reasoning of things being either unitary or multiple, and recognizing that the object is here, the thing to be negated is neither unitary nor multiple. And so in dependence on that kind of reasoning and obtaining this view, which establishes the I and mine as not existing by means of its own intrinsic nature, then someone who possesses that within their that view within their mental continuum engages in meditation, relies upon meditation. So this is referring here to, first of all, gaining that understanding of the reasoning, and then gaining the view through that process of reasoning. And then once one has ascertained that view, then one has to develop meditative stabilization of shamatha, the tranquility kind of meditation. And then once one has developed that kind of shamatha meditation with respect to this object as the object of that meditation, then one integrates insight meditation together with that type of shamatha meditation, and then by meditating on that object in that way, then one proceeds.
Oh yeah, 준대도 공부하다 때네스. 아니 다단다기 시위칠 세이가나 다 안진. 다기와 마이와 준비직다. 안진당 마이와 준비직다니 오들이. 그봐 다단다기 시위칠 다데 말씀비 유 가사당. 다기와 된 마이와 준비 유 풍부 남지. 다 마이와 준비 유 풍부 남지 세들아 측전 때 주고도 마이와 스나 지기와 살다디라. 마이와 준비 유 마이와 남지 참아 시와데. 참아 시와데 세가나 아니 마이와랑 그 천이 주와다 나랑 그 천이 주와 시와데 지양 마음이 봐 아니 유 마당 마이와랑 신지 매바테 동바 니당 유젠 마당 마이와랑 신 매바 무슨도 또비 유니워데 오라님도 아니 추토 그래 유다 유젠 예보데 아니 오라님도 주 그래
So then, based on that kind of meditation, then the text continues here that the self, or the I, and so the person which is held as the sorry. Okay. So based upon that kind of meditation, there's the pacification of the signs of the self, which is the person, which is the object of grasping at an eye, and that which is of the self, the object which is grasped as the mind. So the signs of the aggregates here are pacified, and this is explained as that they're not observed in any way whatsoever. That is, they're not observed as existing by means of any kind of essence, existing on their own as an autonomous essence. And when one doesn't observe them in that way, that is, sees the emptiness of them, then the subject there, which is emptiness, the absence of those sort of signs of intrinsic existence within the I or the mind, that object and the subject here, the mind perceiving that, become blended together into a single taste.
Oh yeah, that is Jena. And you than I were Rashi maybe Tomba Nitang. You share than I were Rashi maybe Musum to Toby, Loni or de, or Ranyam to Chubi, Chula Chushada, but Ranyam to Chubi, Lodi, and you Kombala Dene. And you carry Sana, Madang I eat Zimmy Jurus, and Anzing I eat Zimmy Jurus, Segana, Marzimbi, Jigdatang. And I was in Bichita, you were there, and ma Mebajure said, Najuva Rashinji true at Zimbatang, Marashinji true at Zimbatang. Mayuva Rashinji true Jigda, Bane is at the Lana Jasha. Bechadra. Jigda Bane, Mebajutes. Lana Dua. Bane.
So the verse there says that when the I and the mine, when the self and that which is of the self is pacified, and then the following line says, then grasping at an I or grasping at mine becomes non-existent. And so here, this is referring to that kind of meditation, or based upon the kind of meditation described above. That the result of that is a sort of fusion of the subject here, which is the emptiness of the I and mine, that they're devoid of any kind of, there's no intrinsically existing I or mine. They don't exist by means of their own essence. So the absence of that property of existing by means of essence is understood, is the object here. The subject is the mind perceiving that, and these are under the mind perceiving that. This here is a direct perception. It's not mediated by concepts, but is rather a direct perceptual cognition of the emptiness of these objects, and those become blended together and fused. Then the next line of the verse says, then grasping at I and grasping at mine become non-existent. That's referring to the two forms of wrong view of the perishable aggregates, which takes the I or the mine as their objects. And so it says that the yogi or yogini here, they get rid of, the Tibetan text here has a typo that says lung, which means something like taken up, but it should read pung, which means get rid of. They get rid of the wrong view of the perishable aggregates, which grasps at the I as being established by its own essence, or which grasps at the mind as being existing or established by its own essence. And once it's gotten rid of those, they become non-existent.
Oh yeah. Panjita pana meba jude. Tawa dan panja tawa. Ngada ngayiwa rashiji meba tobi lote tawa tiche. Ngada ngayiwa rashiji truwa zimbi jikta de. Ani panja che. Tini. Ngada ngayiwa rashiji meba tobi lote dan. Ngada ngayiwa rashiwa zimbi loyi. Rashiji truwa zimbi lote yu jula zindang gawa. Tawa dege rashi meba to. Jikta dege rashi truwa zimba yinza zindang gawa shuxing. Ngama tawa de yang dabi tuan la shuba. Yang dabi tuan la shuba yinza lo chinji ma lo bache. Jikta niwo de chiji lo yinza yang dabi tuan kwan be ane chiji lo chiju ane niwa chiju chundur jire tar saba zhu zhugu warwa. Niwa chundu chi.
So
shubi chiro xian.
So then it says when that has become non-existent, or the reason given for that is that the view, and here view refers to the mind which is cognizing emptiness through direct perception, direct perceptual cognition of emptiness, And the thing to be gotten rid of, the thing to be gotten rid of here is referring to the wrong view of the perishable collection of the aggregates, holding them to, which holds them to be inherently existent, existing by their own essence. Those two, the view and the thing to be gotten rid of, engage their objects in a manner, the way in which they apprehend their objects is contrary. What that means is that with regard to a single object, the eye or the mind, we could take either one of those as a single object. The view apprehends that object as being devoid of essence, whereas the thing to be gotten rid of, the view which, the wrong view of the perishable collection, has a way of apprehending that object as if it existed by means of essence, by means of its own essence. And since the view and the thing to be gotten rid of, those two engage in their objects in a way which is contrary, then the former, which is referring here to the view that is the direct perception of emptiness, engages in a real object here, the object which is reality, one could say. Yang dapat dun la shuba.
Yang dapat dun la shuba re, setoni to beten, lodi, yang dapat dun la shuba, right?
So the mind which is apprehending, which is grasping at a self, is wrong. It's erroneous. Whereas the mind which is cognizing emptiness is correct. Its object is correct, and itself is correct.
Oh yeah. That didn't be true. That's in there, Yamsuland with it. And the London to the Java Chanjulam Jirabal, the Madras, Swansea. Taniwa, the La Java Pongatella, Kade Tetana, Madang Ayua Zimba Pong in Anjoa Yolas, Madang Ayua, Rashi Twatibit of Anjoa Yola, Tetana, Dadan Pumbo, Rangon Woni Yogores, Yodos and Pumbo, Dadan Pumbo, and the Rashi Jituba Yodang. Madang Ayua Zibi Pong in Anjoa, the Shachogre. Dada Pumbo Rashi to a mana, Madang Ayua Zibi Nanjoa Shachogumare, Cheneta Jobati Ongwari. And then Madang Ayua Zimba Pong in Anjoa Yola, Tetan, Dada Pumbo, Rangun Oni Yodos Jena, Sena, Dada Dagu and the Rashi Jimeba Arsha somebody. Sedra, Tetanayam, Manzing Ayi Zimega Tea Yoba Maino. Take it up, Casore. Tedale, Champing Arzimbata, Ayuva Zimba Mebate, Poma Kayimbi, Nanjo Korayan, Madang Ayuva Zimba Point, Nanjo Korayan, Rashi Mebate.
So here the text continues that saying that the way in which one practices this kind of meditation, takes it up in one's experience, which is the way in which one maintains the meditative practice of shamatha and insight meditation. Those are explained in detail in the stages of the path to awakening texts. J. Rinpoche says, I've already explained those, so I'm not going to elaborate on them here. And then the text, the commentary continues by addressing some controversies that could arise by rebutting some kind of controversy that or argument that someone could make against the presentation that's been given above. And so the argument is presented such that someone might say that even though it is the case that as you've given it, you've explained it up above, there has to be some kind of yogi or yogini who has gotten rid of grasping at an I or a self. And if that's the case, then the self
and the aggregates would have to exist by means of their own essence, essentially existent. Someone might say that. And then the explanation continues saying that the self and that which is of the self, belongs to the self, has already been explained such that they're devoid of essence. And then even though that's the case, then the root text says,
대달에 신비 나르심바다 나이 짐바 매바데 뽕 강인비 난조와 태양 난조 매 코양 라신지마 주어레스.
So the person that understands that grasping an eye or grasping at mind is non-existent, that also does not exist. That person does not exist. And so the commentary on that explains that the person that's, there's no other person that, so a yogi or yogini who has gotten rid of holding the person as being grasping at an eye or grasping at a mind, that yogi or yogini also does not exist by means of his or her own essence.
Oh yeah, that is it. I zeme ba kange tome mitongo seikana nganjin ngai zeme ba sere kyo kange ngar zimba da ngai wa zimba me ba de se nganjin ngai zeme ba se che me ba de ngai da ngai wa zimba po yin nan jo wa ngo ni ji ba ye do xie tong wa de ni se ngai da ngai wa zimba po yin nan jo wa de ani ra xin ji ye do xie tong wa de ni 아니 동반지 된 마동신 마당 아이와 진비 아니 직단야 봄에 와래 세야들아 관계 통면 미동어 세도에 말해 야
관계 통 미동 so la
안진 아이 제메바 세가라 교 관계 아르선 바다 아이 진바 매바데 아니 뽕이 안진지 뭐 뽕이 난조 코 라신지 예도 예도 통화 되니 아니 퇴권한지 된 미동신 아니 하다 아이와 집에 지다야 보면은 와래.
So it says there, the verse says that the one who sees that that grasping at an eye and grasping at mind is non-existent, that one also is not seen. And so it says here that the one who sees who understands that the grasping at the so a yogi or yogini who has gotten rid of grasping at an eye or grasping at a self, who has understood, seen that they're non-existent, someone who thinks that or sees such a person as existing by means of their own essence, then that person such a person would not see the meaning of reality here, has not seen that, because they're not able to get rid of, to abandon the view of the perishing aggregates which grasps at I and mine.
Oh yeah, 지가들 돌아 난게 다니 동바데 치료 타자 동바데 가시 돈이 건져봐 태양 가시 요마에서가나 난게 다니 규지뒤에 난게 최탐제야 동바다 치료 그 최타장 동바데 봐 가시 돈이 권바 청gen기 권바 청gen 태양 안에 동바 검제봐 태양 가시 라시제봐 많이 가시 돈이 건져봐 태양 가시 So it's, above it said then that the yogi or yogini, or him or herself, because they're devoid of essence, they don't exist by means of their own essence. So one can't say that
if you see them as existing by means of their own essence, then one's not able to get rid of the wrong view of the aggregates, which grasps at them as an I or a mine. And this is explained also in a sutra, where it says that look at that which is inner as empty. Also look at that which is external as empty. The person who meditates on emptiness, there also is nothing. It doesn't exist at all, meaning here that it doesn't exist by means of some kind of essence. The meditator does not exist by means of his or her own essence.
아니 가서 공부비 가서 태양 아니 남야라신지 중요한 말에서 선바태양 남친 중요한 말이 풍보랑신지 인신 동바인바 대신도 창주외랑신지 인신 동바제바 동바인바 창주라 강주바 태양 랑신지 동바인바 동바대 창주 공바범 야나 김이 세바르 뽕바태양 뽕바태양 让心去动把的一些安定去写记的，让心动把引把的一些的点把个写个嘞，让到今天了，忙把个七万个写个嘛的，再说一把的，是吧
？So then there's a verse from, or a couple of verses from the Samadhi Raja Sutra, also the king of meditative concentrations, which expresses the same thing, and it says, someone who thinks that with regard to a person who thinks with respect to phenomena that are pacified and that are peaceful and completely pacified, that sort of person doesn't arise at all, never arises. Here, this means, here where it says that are pacified and thoroughly pacified, it's referring to the objects of the wrong view of the perishable collection, the aggregates, which is grasping at the I or this mine as being intrinsically existent. Someone who, the person who thinks about those sort of phenomena, here you could also say the absence, the lack of inherent existence of the I and the mind, such a person never occurs, never arises, meaning doesn't exist by means of their own intrinsic essence either. And then the second verse, part of that verse says that the aggregates are isolated from essence. They're separated from essence and are emptiness. The awakening is isolated from essence and is emptiness as well.
강주대 동반이라 강주바 태양 강공범 동반이라 강주바 태양 라시 동바레스 동바인바디 이제다 덴베 시그레스
So someone who engages in that, here referring to or practices that, someone who is practicing meditation on emptiness is also empty of essence. And this is understood by people who have wisdom, who have gnosis, but it's not understood by childish beings. Here referring to childish or foolish beings who don't understand the essential points of what is to be taken up and what is to be gotten rid of in the practice.
아니 세바다 렘바 되자니체 디제라 레스바 유가나 텐더비 렘바데 세베 깨와서 주트레 렘바서 깨와서 주트레
This, the third subdivision in the section we're in now explains the way in which one stops birth by stopping grasping. We mentioned previously about how craving and grasping cause the arising of birth, and so the next section explains how that happens.
나다 치료 니다라 다단다기 냠사냐 세가라 다단다기 와라 미네 저 다단다기 와라 다나 낭세데 다라메바 다기 와세데 치료 클래스고에 인자 다단다기 와세소나 나다 치료 니라나 다단다기 냠사냐 다기 와세소나 직다 세소나 다시 갑자기 직다 말이 받고와 단지야라 주님을 하는 직다 말이 받세베 아니 직다 그냥 나와 레사가 레메바이다 아니 가소레 레라스 되게 렘바요사요 말이 렘바메 니와 렘바 가주에 아니 가소레 스티바그 세다디 아니 레지도 아니 가스 기실 가봐 주와 인상 So the
next verse in the text then says that when one is extinguished or stopped, the thought of self and that which is belonging to the self with respect to inner and outer things. So inner and outer things here refers to things like the inner things would be like the I or the self, and the outer things would be like the aggregates or things which are used by the person or the I. And then when one has stopped thinking of those, then the process of grasping or appropriation is ceased. So here, the thought of I, of self, and of the self, belonging to the self, here is referring to the two types of, or the mistaken view of the perishable collection, which is the ignorance that is the first link of the factors of dependent origination. So this will be explained down below.
다 라시 주어 좀 받다 다그와 라시 주반집이 직단이 세나 직단매나 녀와 렘바시 가바 주대시 녀와 렘바시 다와라 통그레 다와 녀와 렘바 다도 다와 녀와 이와 가서 대바 녀와 렘바 다와 렘바 녀바 아니 시와와 통그도와 녀와 렘바시 가바 주대 니모 탐자지 자와데 직다 근지 중앙 제 지디 규제스나 대불에서 구하래 지달라 때문에 안에 더우디 지지 규제에서 대부 아니 니와 도저기 레사바가 대가데 가라 레사 레라 쇠대 렘바가 렘바가바게 아니 스바가 드네 스바가바 깨와 가바 주바 인자 지지 규제노 시에숨비 치로스.
So it says, therefore, or thus, by observing that which is the I, the self, or of the self, here the self or of the self refers to the I or the person, and then which is of the self refers to either the aggregates, which are possessions of the self, or the other external objects which are utilized by the person, the self. By observing those, when one extinguishes the two forms of the wrong view of the perishable collection, which think with respect to the self and that which pertains to the self. Daktan dagiwa mamikbe nang
다기와 거래
daktan dagiwa mamikbe
다단 다기와 마미 배 다단 다기와 라시지 추가 마미 배 좋아 마미 배난 다단 치료와 다기와 달라 다기냐 비 직단이 세나.
So it says here, by not observing that which is the self or of the self, not seeing that. Here it's referring by not seeing the self or that which is of the self as existing by means of their own essence. Then one extinguishes, removes the two kinds of grasping, two views that grasp at the perishable aggregates as being real, and which thinks of the inner self and external things which are of the self as being a real self or being an inherently existing mind. When those are extinguished, then the four kinds of appropriation are ceased. And the four kinds of appropriation, or sometimes this is translated as grasping, but here the term is appropriation, refers to the four kinds of things which were enumerated above in the discussion of the 12 factors of dependent origination. The appropriation or grasping at desire, the dupa.
예문바 탐제니 직디 자와 전인.
So Nyerlin Shi.
시디는 올라 통그리.
They'll be enumerated down below, and by getting Nyerlin Shi
시디 올라 통그리. 예문바 탐제니 직디 자와 전인 세레 예문 탐제 직다 규체와라 때나 중화이자 예문 탐제 직디 자와 전레체.
So by it stops by stopping those four four appropriations. All of the mental afflictions, which have as their root the wrong view of the perishable collection, and which
직디 자와전 직다 꾼 중화라 직다라 때나 중화 직다 그 대부를 세 직디 규제노 세 직대 대부를 세관.
Well, so it says that all of the mental afflictions have as their root the wrong view of the perishable collection. And the explanation of this possessing the wrong view of the perishable collection as the root here of all the mental afflictions is glossed as meaning that they have as their source the wrong view of the perishable collection, or have as their cause the wrong view of the perishable collection.
니네 렘바텔라 아니 렘바테게 세사디 되자인자 칼라 차바제사 그 시대라 아니 되바 따와 수dum두슈 제간에 가라 신이 되바당 따와당 수dum다 두슈당 다도 마와니와 렘바고 다 되바 거래에서나 대남네 렘바신 수자라 소바 아니 되라 세바치 되니 따왕하게 나네 지다 마도 비기 로다당 따와 총전당 아니 가려고 로다당 따와 총전 되니 올해 로다다 따와 총전 제 어디라 세바 직체 다 당한단 저 아니 초좀다 도시 총전에 세바 직체 아니 직다라 세바 전 도시
So these four are explained as were listed before when we talked about the four things which are grasped at. So you have craving and grasping in the 12 factors of dependent origination. The things which are which are grasped at, impelled by the craving, the sort of desire, are the four in sequence, which are desire for the desirable objects, which are visible forms, sound, and so forth. Those are the sort of objects of this this kind of grasping. And then the second one is wrong views, except for the wrong view of the perishable aggregates. And then the third one is bad sorts of conduct, religious conduct, which are religious conduct which is connected with some kind of wrong view, and then also religious observances which are not good, which are bad in nature. And then the fourth one here is the wrong view of the perishable collections itself, grasping at a self itself, taking those as the objects. One has sort of interest in them and develops attachment towards them. That's what is described here as this grasping.
Oh yeah, that didn't teach you la. Tesapani Java said, Tereka, Tage. Oh, the one you are Lambala, Sovaki, and in Lamba Sebe, and Lamba Meba in Zang, and it's Lembegi, Sibala Tamni, and it's Kase, Yasutubala on the Chua Shed, the Maimbari, Daniela Junior and Sibit and the Gani. Never Lamba de Sebe, Levang Sibari Java Saba Juro, said Tesapani Javasha. Siba Meva in the Anijawa Meva.
So it says here, by extinguishing that or stopping that, birth is stopped. Birth is extinguished. It says here then that by extinguishing that grasping, that grasping, then it extinguishes or stops birth in existence by means of the force of karma. As described earlier, that if you don't have a craving and grasping, then the propensity, which is the propensities existing within the consciousness, cannot be activated so as to give rise to consciousness in the result state, which is the principle, the factor which immediately precedes birth taking place.
Atene Tabatobe Tola, Kangi Jawan Dobi Rimba, Segana, Ani Jawan Dobi Rimba, Lemba Seba, Siba Seba, Jawan Dobi Rimba, Nashabata, Yibichina, Ani Leda Nimo Sebe Tar, Sericanta, oh, Jubsiki Le Sibatang, Le Nimo Ani Lemba Sebe Tar, Leda Nimo Sebe. Tabajuru Shechava Nati, Sakarisana, Lemba Sana, Lemba Meba Inza, Ti Jinji, Tajishuana, Sipa Mejuna. Juliani, Yojum Majum, Sana, I do Juliet and Yamo, Sepata Lemba Nesana, Tumde Giva Gasinu Tabajua. Shua, Ledanimo Sebatar.
So it says then the next says that how is it, the next subdivision of the text is how does one obtain liberation from that samsara? Then it says because of getting rid of due to the sequence of averting the arising of birth. As explained, that's how one obtains liberation. And it says, by extinguishing karma and the mental afflictions, one is liberated. So through the extinction or the stoppage of the karma and the mental afflictions, one obtains liberation. If one gets rid of grasping, craving and grasping and existence functioning as the accomplishing causes, that give rise to rebirth, then there's no way for one to take up for existence. I'm sorry, if grasping is stopped, then the thing which depends upon that as its condition, existence, can't arise. And if one extinguishes both karma and the mental afflictions, then birth and aging and sickness and death are stopped, are averted. So this is just as it was explained previously, where craving, grasping, and existence are the accomplishing factors that give rise to birth and then aging and sickness and death. And so if you remove those accomplishing causes, accomplishing factors, their accomplished effects cannot arise. And by stopping the mental afflictions and craving and grasping, mental afflictions and karma, then rebirth and such cannot arise.
Ang du kare sabe le da nyimo sagre sena le da nyimo namdo le si kala du o seba dang ka sa lemba dang ani le seba nyiwo tiang kare le jewa re sena chumi yi ji namdo le jewa re si ko re ko re ji bi le nyimo le je la nyimo ko wang le je so wa nyimo la de le si je la nyimo tiang kare re nyimo de kare re sena 두바담 미두바 치지도 그 처음이지 남도라 때네 아니 종기 라신지 원이지와 많이 넣었어 근데 토마 안에 가서래 사제정오 이동화당 미용화다 이동화다 미비 처음이지 그 남도 이도 언제 텔레 하반 프로토비 처음이지 그 남도 지지 남도 되게 그냥 라는데 안에 되자지 o deja go wang deja mtini deja go wang lesa tu chigarwa inda chumi ji namdo la jaware namdo la chumare de ngo ni ji ba mare tu simare.
So then it says, what is, if you ask, what is it, or if you think, what is it that that one needs to extinguish or stop in order to stop karma and the mental afflictions from occurring? Then the verse says, karma and the mental afflictions arise from thought. Here, and then the commentary explains that the karma which gives rise to birth in samsara, regarding that, arises from the mental afflictions. And the mental afflictions as well arise from a thought, which is a mistaken judgment, which is an erroneous kind of judgment with regard to things which are considered to be attractive or unattractive. Here, this mistaken sort of judgment is a type of thought which takes objects and then superimposes uponto the objects the quality of being beautiful or attractive, desirable, or ugly or unattractive, undesirable. And so that sort of exaggerated superimposition that thought applies to objects is the source from which all of the mental afflictions arise. Once one has made that erroneous judgment of objects and exaggerated beauty or ugliness, then one gives rise to desire or animosity, attraction, and aversion. All of the different types of mental afflictions arise from that. But it says here that although the karma and the mental afflictions arise from thought, they don't exist by means of their own essence. We're going to stop here. There's the puja tonight.
如果南大县大学报修一堂古热然那门扎拉冈尼亚大呀没上去生就人不见马街巴达结完年把没把呀光年光度陪吧说讲吧把月切大讲吧大滚度上波的在大滚去接受大陆